Gauravani Vishasunivari Pashtatara Sataname. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Yeah, just a bit of a kind of reminder that these readings and classes, they're up there on YouTube if anyone wants to go back over them. It's interesting. I've got a couple of comments on some of them. It's quite interesting. So,
what kind of comments?
Just questions. Someone's asking a question.
Question is okay, but do we come up with all this rubbish talking? Well, my rubbish talking.
Anyway, we have been recorded now.
Oh, Krishna.
Anyway, it's there if you want. If you miss a class or you want to catch up, it's there. You know. So anyway, we are on chapter 29, which is more or less, this is the last chapter of Sudha Bhakti Chintamani, actually. Chapter 30 is a summary of the whole book. Yeah, and then chapters, part 5, chapters 31 and 32 are quite unique. I think, as I mentioned before, because Maharaj is going to tell a story which illustrates a devotee joining and moving through all the different stages to perfection. And he presents a story in a contemporary way. It's very interesting. So those who read through the Bhakti Chintamani, you probably know of that. So that's the last 2 chapters. So it's a little bit different. It won't be a class as such. It'll just be a reading. And this is chapter 29. Hearing at ecstasy and at love. Now we're being this subject, this is part 4. So we've spoke about the qualification to hear. Remember that the principles of hearing. Then we spoke about hearing without faith. Then hearing with impure faith. Then hearing at unsteady devotion. We heard about that. What are the symptoms of that? Hearing with steadiness and taste. What are the symptoms of that? What is that about? There's a lot more to it than that. For instance, the appearance of taste at steadiness, regular to devotion, at least to spontaneous devotion, the mood of Raj Bhakti, the need to hear about Raj Bhakti, etc. And then hearing with attachment was chapter 28. And then finally, we're going to now hear about hearing at the stage of ecstasy and at love. So what is that all about? You know, unfortunately, we can only read about it, perhaps at our stage, but it's very inspiring to hear what is the world, or what is it like for someone at the stage of bhava and love. What do they experience when they hear about Krishna? So that's what we're looking at today. Let's see how far we get. We might finish this chapter today. Let's see. So are we ready? Hearing, are you ready to hear about hearing at ecstasy and at love? So,
we are ready.
You're ready, okay. So I guess I'm ready as well. Okay.
And desire.
Yes, and this is what creates desire. Abhilas is the word for desire. So this is what, so hearing about devotees and hearing about accomplished devotees and devotees at the stage of perfection, that's greatly inspires us. That it can create a greed to also come to these stages by the Lord's blessings. So anyway, so now in chapter 17 of the Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami, he speaks about ecstatic devotion. So when we say ecstatic devotion, as you may remember, we're speaking about bhava. Yeah, bhava is often described as ecstatic devotion. Yeah. Now, Rupa Goswami says, I think as we touched upon yesterday, that what's the result of our regulated devotion is that we become elevated to the transcendental stage. Yeah. And that transcendental stage means you're beyond the modes of nature. And Rupa Goswami explains that one's heart is here, becomes like the sun. Yeah. Now, as we know, the sun is far above the planetary systems, yeah, far above the clouds. So it isn't possible for it to be covered by a cloud. Yeah. So when a devotee's heart is purified, and now from that purified heart is a diffusion of ecstatic love, which he describes as more glorious than the sunshine. Yeah. So the sunshine is a pretty powerful force, isn't it, within this material world? But bhava is a force more glorious and more powerful than even the sun itself. Yeah. Now at that stage, one's attachment to Krishna is at a stage of perfection, and devotees, we heard this word many times, they spontaneously become eager to serve the Lord which is a symptom of their ecstatic devotion. Now, we spoke the word spontaneous. It means it's just flowing from the heart, just like the resonance of Vrindavan. Yeah, all their service to Krishna is out of spontaneous love. Yeah. They don't have to be told to make garlands for Krishna, told to do this, told to that. They are spontaneously love to do these things. As an aside, many years ago, one devotee, we was actually joking. Actually, we was in the ashram, and a knock on the door came, and someone said, "You have to make the garlands. No one's made the garlands, and you're on the schedule to make the garlands." And this devotee said, "Oh, goddamn garlands."
Oh no.
Oh no.
So it's like a slip of tongue, but he kind of revealed the state of mind of a sadhaka, And I made a joke. Yeah, I could. Then I made this joke. Well, can you imagine? He said that what the gopis say when they have to make a garland for Krishna. Oh, yeah. Why does it have to be me make the garland for Krishna? Can't it be someone else? Can't it be Lalita? I mean, I'm always making a garland for Krishna. Well, that's called devotional service in the mode of ignorance, So anyway, these devotees at the stage of bhava, their hearts it's like the fusion of sun. It's like the sun. Now at this stage, this is the stage. We have these stages: Uddam, Madhyam, and Kanishta. So at this stage, devotee is on the platform Uddam, which means their devotion is within the realm of perfection. Yeah. So there is no struggle with the three modes of material nature. Yeah. There is no affection or attachments or lingering memories, although they may be there, lingering memories, but not enough to entice their mind and senses one iota. Yeah. They have one interest within their being. There's only one interest, and that's to serve Radha and Krishna. Yeah. So Maharaj explains that this is the stage when one is completely fit to hear Krishna's pastimes. Yeah. Doesn't mean we don't hear Krishna's pastimes, but at this stage, the devotees are really hearing, and they're really qualified to hear Krishna's pastimes completely. Yeah. Because they're above the modes of material nature, which means if they're above the modes of material nature, they're above this material world. although they're within the material world. Yeah? So their only interest is in Krishna's service. I mean, how many interests do conditioned souls, or do we conditioned souls, have in this material world? Unlimited, millions of different ideas and plans. But at this stage, the heart is completely cleansed, and the only thing shining through their heart, mind, and their very being is this great love for Krishna. So the only interest is in serving Krishna.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please, yeah.
So these devotees who are on really high Bhava platform or coming up to Prema,
Yeah.
then their bodies are spiritual then?
Yeah.
Because they cannot contain all that love with material kind of.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking.
Good point. Marge describes that later on in the slides that we get to. It becomes tat bhava. You know, Prabhupada gives the example of when you put iron in a fire,
and
it becomes just like fire.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes, it is fire. Yeah.
Okay. So they, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, go on.
So then, when one leaves their body, they kind of, those who are on a high platform, then they spiritualize their ego, mind, intelligence.
Well,
right?
yeah, well, the subtle body becomes dissolved. It becomes dissolved. That's mentioned by Lord Kapila in 3rd canto. They actually dissolved their material subtle body, and then their original spiritual body manifests. Now, it's interesting to note when we're speaking about this, we may have certain vision of a devotee at such a stage, but remember, even at this stage, and this will be spoken of, that devotees will not advertise themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Prabhupada is one wonderful example. Obviously, Prabhupada has great love of Krishna by the potency of his preaching and just by his example. But how did that love manifest? He was 24 hours a day preaching and speaking about Krishna. Yeah. He would never tire of hearing and chanting about Krishna. So just keep that in mind as we're discussing this, that how it manifests will be in accordance to the desire of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So for Prabhupada, I mean, he could well have just, okay, that's it. I'm just going to relish this and come back to Vrindavan, or even stayed in Vrindavan, but he didn't. Anyway, side point, but I bring that in as a meditation. Now, there's at this stage, devotees, you heard the word revelation. We all know what word revelation means something is shown. Yeah, something is shown to you, generally from above, at this revelation. Yeah, so it has two features, which are both transcendental. Now, Krishna actually appears with his associates, but in the mind. That's known as spruti. You may have heard that word. Spruti. It actually manifests. Remember we discussed before, like we may, we may at our stage, we may have a favorite picture of Krishna, or we may remember the deities and we close our eyes and we chant Hare Krishna. And we're doing our best to focus on the lotus feet of the Lord, but in one sense it's spiritual, but in one sense it's not. We're doing it as a mental exercise. Yeah. But this is where it's not a mental exercise here. Krishna actually manifests. Yeah, he actually manifests, and wherever there's Krishna, there's his associates. And wherever and that's all in the spiritual world. So that's called spruti, where it manifests within the mind. Yeah. And at that time, this again, I think this is a bhava, high levels of bhava. So then once a devotee's siddha deha becomes somewhat understood. Somewhat understood. I'll explain later. Not the details of it is not completely revealed. You following?
But you're going towards that path, right?
Yeah. That's coming down the line. That's quickly
Yeah,
coming.
like little bits of your desires along that path you're going to go.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now this is all done because devotees chanting the pure name. Yeah, Sudanam. Yeah. So Krishna and his associates become visible. What's in, you could say, to the spiritual eyes. Their eyes are salved with the tinge of love. Yeah. So now it happens to be those pastimes which one has heard about in the stages prior to bhava. Yeah. And one is recalled through, like we read Venu Gita, there's the Krishna book, these pastimes, they actually appear in the mirror of the heart. Yeah. And it's not something that's coming from the devotee trying to remember by the mechanical clogs of the mind. It's actually Krishna manifesting. Yeah. So those pastimes, it becomes revealed. Krishna shows that. And Prabhupada calls this spiritual television. He mentions that in the purport to Maharaj is quoting from the first canto. Spiritual television. Yeah. Interesting example, because it is here we have televisions or whatever. We could see things from afar away, see things manifest from hundreds of miles away. So why not? That's the material. On the spiritual side, it happens. But there's a lot there's a lot more interesting what's on the television of a pure devotee's heart. Now obviously, yeah, there is a difference. Now these ecstatic devotees, now they do more than observe the pastimes. They participate in them. Now when I was reading this today, it sounds to me like Maharaj is speaking about prema here, where you actually participate in the pastime. Yeah, that's actually prema, as far as I understood. Yeah, he doesn't mention that detail here, but as far as I understood, that's actually prema. Yeah. Now the original was called Siddha Deha. We had that. We heard about the Siddha Deha controversy. Yeah. But here's the real thing. Yeah. So it manifests as one may manifest as a gopa or gopi. Yeah. And a particular manifests itself in a particular pastime they are observing. Now Maharaj mentions here that the spiritual form of a realized devotee does not manifest itself in every pastime he or she hears. Okay. That manifest pastime is the one which that devotee plays a role. Yeah, and that's arranged by the Leela Shakti. Yeah. Now devotees hear about the other pastimes, but they do in the mood of Ripalamba, separation. Well, I can see everyone's. Let me have a look who's here with us today. Hare Krishna. Haribol, everyone. Just make. Well, everyone's got their camera on. That's great. Oh, that's great. Hare Krishna.
Yes, everybody put their cameras on.
Perhaps you might not be able to, but yeah. Shall we read on? You want to hear more?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Anyway, I'll go back.
Any questions? That was a question.
I was thinking, no, it's okay. I can ask.
Okay. Let me now. Yeah. Now this revelation it does not happen all at once. It's not a one-time thing. It was basically by the grace of Sutta Sattva, the internal energy. They first, just read from here, they first gain awareness of their constitutional position, Stahi Bhav, which is a specific relation. We discussed that on the Nectar Devotion readings. They have a Stahi Bhav, a fixed relationship. But they do not. But what's not revealed is their own defining characteristics, their name, their dress, where they live, etc. Yeah, that's coming later. Yeah. Now here's Bodhananda Saraswati. He writes in his book called Radha Rasa Sudha Niti. He writes about this gradual introduction to the spiritual body. So he's writing about himself. So he wrote about that in the book called Radha Rasa Sudha Niti. I'll just read that here. In my Siddha Deha, I am a maidservant of Srimati Radharani. With deep affection, she has bestowed her mercy upon. She has bestowed upon me her mercy in the form of clothing she has worn. I will wear this clothing and see myself as an adolescent young girl, always near my mistress, at her beck and call to cleverly serve her in various ways. Without the second thought, I will abandon my husband and serve day and night the lotus feet of Radha in the groves of Vrindavan. Yeah, so this, and then we have now all this generally is happening. It can happen at any time, but generally it's going to happen in kirtan, either japa or kirtan, you know, in Guru Puja one day. If we're blessed during japa one day, we can only pray. Yeah. So this is where it's all going on within the realm of Shravanam Kirtanam. Yeah. So it does. So again, and then it reveals more of the eightfold pastimes, Ashtakala Leela, and that then reveals more of the devotee's spiritual identity. Yeah. Now, again, they've been shown there, Siddha Deha, and they hanker to enter into, with all the details, that service. They have so much love, they want to serve Krishna. Yeah. Now, then Maharaj mentions that then there's 11 aspects of their identity, Ekadasa Bhav. So sometimes they can manifest one at a time, or sometimes all at once. Wow, sounds exciting, doesn't it? Now, number one. So here's the, I did a quick online thing and I found, it was because Maharaj didn't mention it, what those 11 are. Those 11 Ekadasa Bhav. Now again, just go back to, let's go back to the Sahajiyas, or those who propose a false Siddha Deha, persons who are at the stage of Anartha-Nivritti, they will get told these 11 Ekadasa Bhava to meditate upon. So we can understand how bogus that is, you know. This comes at the stages of Bhava when it's shown. It's not something, no one's qualified to assign it to you. Yeah. So anyway, here they are. One has a specific relationship with Radharani. Now we'll speak about that more. Yeah. One's age. Yeah. One may be 12, 6 months and 10 days old. Yeah. Interesting, although they're eternal. Don't ask me any questions on that. I don't understand. Okay. But they're eternal forms. Yeah. 12 years, 6 months, 10 days. They have a name, such as Kamala Manjari. Anyone know who Kamala Manjari is? Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur.
Really?
and he revealed that they have a certain rupa, their bodily appearance, their bodily hue. In a spiritual world, their bodies are different colors. Some are red, like a red lotus, like a champak flower, and they're different colors. It's not like here in the material, black, white, yellow, brown. In the spiritual world, their bodies are manifestation of their bhava and ecstasy. So they have different, brilliant, colored, hued bodies. Again, that takes some understanding. It's not exactly like one's like an orange and a red. Not exactly like that. So anyway, so some of them have the color of lightning, for instance, yeah, or the color of a monsoon cloud, as Krishna, yeah. And now also their yutta, or particular group that they are in, a particular group of gopis or gopas, yeah, and they're under one of Radharani's, say, friends, for example, as Lalita. They will have their line in charge. They're their boss. Someone's in charge. Someone is looking in their group, yeah? And they have a particular dress and the style and their color, and they have specific instructions that they received from the yutta in charge, say Lalita. And of course, they have a service. They may provide Radha Krishna with camphor, for example, yeah, like that. Okay. Now this is from, yeah. Maharaj describes here, it's by the holy name that this taste of mellow becomes thicker and thicker and thicker. It becomes more condensed. And then this identity combines with 4 other ingredients, which we have been speaking of or reading about in the Nectar of Devotion. Do you remember Rupa Goswami is describing each of these 4 in relationship to each of the rasas? So Vibhava, Anubhava, Sattvika Bhava, and Vyapachari. Yeah, this is rasa. And we won't elaborate on what all those terms mean exactly. We have been, everyone can recall that in a Nectar of Devotion. Each of the relationships, then Rupa Goswami describes what's the Vibhava of a cowherd boy, what's the Anubhava of a cowherd boy, what's the manifestation of Sattvika Bhava, what's Vyapachari Bhava. Then he speaks about Krishna's friends. What's the Vibhava? What Vibhava ecstasy? What's Anubhava? Sattvika Bhava, Vyapachari. Yeah. Yeah. Now let me just read this section here. Now it's from these. Actually, I'll keep reading, but then I come out reading again because there's different notes they have. Now it's from these combinations that this is where love then arises. Yeah. Now at practice, we'll read this part. At practice, the divine realm about which devotees hear is a spiritual reality, far distant from the hearers, isn't it? Sometimes it's quite sobering, isn't it, when we realize how far we are away, yeah, from the spiritual realm, yeah. Now, at Bhava, it actually becomes a reality in which they live. It's not a far away place. It's a place in which they live, although they're still within the material realm. Yeah. So this is known in the Nectar of Instruction. Prabhupada speaks about these different stages, and we have spoken about these before. It's known as apanadas, application, where you no longer identify yourself as being your body, as being a part of this material world. You have no identity as being related to anyone in this material world. Not your aunt, not your son, not your cousin, No one. You know, you don't have the identity anymore, because that's a false identity. That's a temporary identity. Your real identity is in relationship to Krishna. Yeah, and the devotee at this stage enters into that and doesn't think outside of that. Yeah. Should we hear some more? Yes. Hare Krishna.
Just one thing, you know, when you said about Ekadasa Bhav and you said there's what, 10, 11.
16 actually. No, there's 11, yeah.
So you're going to just say them? So
I did. I said them. You missed it.
Oh, I missed them.
Where was you? How can that was the 11 is the relationship with Radharani, the age, the name, the form, the group you're in, the dress you have, the instructions you have. Yeah, that's Ekadasa.
Okay, that's what it is. Okay, sorry. I meant to write it down. I was thinking you was gonna go 1, 2, 3, but
no, I was saying them, yeah.
That's all right, fine. I got it.
These are mentioned in Jaiva Dharma by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and also in Bhajan Rahasya as well. Sorry, someone's voice I heard there. Okay, so let's continue. Now I'll just read this sentence here because I haven't quite grasped it. No matter how much a person hears about the sweetness of nectar, the joy of hearing these descriptions pales besides the pleasure of actually tasting them. So we can hear about it, isn't it? It's nice to hear about it. It's nice to speak about it. It's nice to hear about it. But to actually taste it, actually, that's something else. Yeah. So Marge mentions that hearing here takes on inconceivable dimensions. Yeah, inconceivable dimensions. That's why sometimes Prabhupada, when he would sing Jaya Radha Madhava, as often mentioned, he would. One time I heard it described like Prabhupada would just be gone. He'd be gone somewhere in the spirit, and the whole atmosphere, the whole temple room would be feeling this ecstasy, which was emanating just from Prabhupada's meditation. Prabhupada would become lost to the world. He wouldn't do it so often. Sometimes it was obviously sometimes he couldn't control it, So he's singing about Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Then he's there. He's in the kunjas with Radha and Krishna. I mean, he's no longer sitting on the Vyasasana. He's no longer an old man of 70. He's no longer, of course he was in one sense, he's no longer has any children, nothing, no identity. He's completely absorbed in that. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Yeah.
It'd be nice to describe that really nicely and get the whole picture one day.
Whole picture? Sorry, that again?
Radha Madhava, that singing, it'd be nice to describe it and really understand.
Jai Radha Madhava. Well, we are. If you read Krishna book, read the Vena Gita, read all what Prabhupada's given us. Yeah. Books of the Goswamis. Yeah. Now then,
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I just remembered once, actually, that was my first time when I was in London. Sakiras Das Prabhu said, this Jara the Madhava song is totally, if you see in Soho Street, those pictures, it's a whole song you can describe.
Yeah, good point, yeah.
Because, Yamuna Tiravanachari, you can see Radha and Krishna.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still remember that was in 2006 something.
Yeah, funny you should bring that up because I remember that as well. But I couldn't remember it was from Sakiras, but now you're saying it, yeah. So Nima Mat has mentioned that Jai Radha Madhava and the whole song, that's what the pictures are in our temple room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Prabhu, I just wanted to ask you, somewhere, I think somebody mentioned, but I can't remember, who is Srila Prabhupada in spiritual world, Prabhu? I think,
Yes.
yeah,
He was in both places.
yeah, that's what.
Well, he was in the material world, obviously, because we could see him, we could relate to him. But internally,
Mm.
he was always with Krishna, and he never forgot Krishna. He was just serving him in this material realm. Yeah. So now,
Surely he is with Nitai Gaura. That is.
yeah. So
Who
take a
is,
pick.
sorry, is there
Yeah.
Giri Garidari in the temple room?
Ah, is there a good point? Is there a lifting Govardhan Hill? No, there's not. We've got one painting missing.
Yeah.
Hey, Vamsiva,
No,
tell him to paint a picture.
sure, before Prabhu, I think.
No, Luanga's right. Luanga, yeah.
There was one in the hallway by the stairs. It
Yeah.
used to be. Yeah. Yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah, it would be good. This is said long in 2006 because that is
Anyway,
yeah long.
let's get back on track. Okay. So now again we're trying to understand. We're reading, hearing about what the devotees experience when they hear about Krishna, at the stage of bhava and prema. So they're no like when we hear, we're like outsiders, but when they hear, they're hearing about their own relatives in the spiritual realm. It's their own kith and kin, Maharaj mentions. Yeah, so when they're speaking about Yasoda, Nanda Maharaj, they're hearing about Yasoda, Nanda Maharaj, they, just as we identify as being related to our family members here, they have they realize they're actually hearing like they're hearing about their own intimate friends and relatives when they hear about Radha and Krishna. Yeah. Now, this picture of Radharani's here. Why is that here? The Queen of Vrindavan. Now, Maharaj brings up interesting points here. The most prominent of Raj Rasi is Radharani. Yeah. Now, she's the shelter. We know she's the shelter for conjugal love. Isn't it? We know that. Yeah. But actually, every devotee in Vrindavan, in any relationship, must take shelter of Srimati Radharani. Yeah. Because she's the queen. Yeah. And she's, Marge mentions here, she's the mistress of Krishna's heart. So she's the source of all Hladini Shakti. So there's no entry to Raj, Vrindavan or Krishna without her grace. Yeah. Big Marge was speaking about this on the Radhastami, not last year, the year before, in the epic class he gave, like 13-hour class. He was really emphasizing this point. There's no entry without the grace of Radharani. Yeah. Now, when these devotees hear about, when these devotees in ecstasy, they read the song of the gopis. Yeah. They do, the gopis. This is in chapter 31, the song of the gopis. Now, they actually experience the same feelings. Yeah. Which are expressed in these songs. Yeah. Actually, their heart and within themselves, their heart, they actually experience what is being written about. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of reading from here because obviously I have zero realization of these points, but still reading it is nice. Now, now Marjan mentions that they he mentions that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he advises he advised advanced devotees now to cultivate ecstatic devotion by hearing the pastimes of the Rajrasis in separation from Krishna. So again, that's a particular sadhana for a particular devotee, a particular stage of Krishna consciousness. It is not for everyone. So they remember we had about, where was it? The principles of hearing. One of them's incidental hearing, where, you know, you're going to Bible time class and we come to 10th canto like we did, and we hear the pastime. That's incidental. But at latter stages of beyond Nishta and further, then a devotee may purposefully hear such pastimes and read their pastimes to kind of, I can say, to cultivate their Nam Bhajan and their meditation. Yeah. So that it's called purposeful hearing. So he's mentioned that Bhaktivinoda Thakur advises such devotees, they may, in that, because it's very, to hear about the Rajrasi separation from Krishna. Now, in the Bhajan Rahasya, check the time. I've got 15 minutes yet. Everyone knows. Can anyone know what the word Purva Rag means? Purva. What does anyone know what Purva means? Purva in like Hindi or?
Before.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So Purva Rag, it's called the mood of separation before meeting. So before the beloved or before the lover meets the beloved, they just hear about them or see a picture or something like that, and they develop attraction. One example of that is Rukmini, where she just heard about Krishna, I think from Narada Muni, and she developed an attachment, a raga for him. Yeah, that's called Purva Raga. Yeah. So Maharaj mentioned here that this is mentioned in his book called the Venu Gita. Yeah, as mentioned as pastimes there. Then there's called Pravasa. There's different, in separation from Krishna, there's different descriptions. One is Pravasa. That's when Krishna leaves Vraj. Yeah, and that's described, Maharaj mentions in his Krishna Sangati book. Yeah, so these are all favorable to cultivate systematic worship. Yeah, but this is not, yeah, this is for more advanced sadhakas. Yeah, is this okay so far? It's not.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Just making sure you're all still with us. Hare Krishna.
Yes, yes, we are.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Now, yeah, point I mentioned earlier, they remain humble. This, yeah.
We've seen that picture in Venu Gita.
Yeah, this is the Venu Gita cover. Beautiful painting, isn't it? Really beautiful.
I think we need to revisit all that again.
And again and again and again and again and
Yeah.
again.
You know?
Yeah.
Like
So
you brought up quite a few points, and like you kind of vaguely remember it, but not like fully to answer, you know?
yeah. Now at this stage, devotees will be dealing with asta satvika bhav, symptoms of crying or trembling of the body. Maybe these are known as existential ecstatic love, you know. So this is the prerogative, this is the treasure of those with a pure heart. Yeah. And these asta sattvika bhava, becoming stunned, perspiring, standing of the hairs on the body, faltering of the voice, trembling of the body, changing of bodily color, shedding of tears, and becoming devastated. This is all in Bhakti Vismrita Sindhu, Nectar Devotion. But it's amazing that although they have such opulences within, they remain, Maharaj describes, like spiritual commoners. Yeah, no one would know, generally, especially if it takes one to know one. Maharaj often mentioned that. It takes one to know one. So especially as we heard, devotees who are chased to Prabhupada and chased to our ISKCON movement, they're not going to necessarily run away to Radha Kund. You know, they're going to be preaching. They're going to be doing festivals. They're going to be, you know, they're going to be seeing devotees. They're going to be, as sometimes I mentioned, queuing up for Bashadam. They may be, you know. This is all because they're very, they devotees are, one of the symptoms of love of God is humility, natural, deep humility. So they remain, yeah. They don't advertise themselves. So this is instruction coming from Rupa Goswami. So he mentions, remember that devotees always conduct themselves like neophytes in public, yeah. But when they're doing their bhajan, that's something else. They're absorbed. They're kind of in the spiritual world of Krishna. And they're radishing, spruti maybe, yeah. Now, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this instruction. He's in teachings to Rupa Goswami, and he gives this example here. This is from Madhya Lila, Rupa Shiksha. If a woman is attached to a man other than her husband, she will appear very busy in carrying out her household affairs. But within her heart, she is always relishing feelings of association with her paramour. Interesting example that's given, isn't it? Kind of fun. There is, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave that example. So it stays kind of hidden. It's not advertised. Basically, they don't need they don't need cheap adoration from kind of less, or what Marge describes as neophyte, or the people in general. Yeah, they're not they have no they have no need for that. What's that? The story of Madhavendra Puri, isn't it? Is it Madhavendra Puri? Yeah, when he was the deity stole the sweet rice for him. Did I get the story right? He stole the sweet rice, and the Pujari came and he wanted to glorify him because the Lord had appeared and said, "Keep the sweet rice for me." And he immediately left because he thought, no, people will be giving me all types of worship and adoration when they hear that the deity has saved sweet rice for him. So he just left the village. You know? But still, it's described that devotee's fame goes with him. You know, it's another story. Yeah. They don't. Marge mentions they don't need any cheap adoration. Then Marge then speaks about something called Tat-bhava. Yeah. So this is what Chandravali brought up about this. Their bodies become spiritualized. Yeah. So in this kind of saturated condition, their bodies transform into actually spiritual substance. Yeah. And then that's the example of the iron rod that's put in the fire, becomes just like fire. Yeah. Papa mentioned this in one lecture, actually. There's a lecture that we often play when we teach deity worship courses in Mayapur, where Prabhupada's speaking about the point of purity. And he's speaking of how we have to become pure in order to approach Krishna, because Krishna is pure. So Prabhupada, he kind of emphasizes this fact, we have to become like fire. And he mentions it quite loudly. Then you can touch fire. First become fire. First become like fire. Yeah? And then you can approach Krishna. Yeah. So it's So the devotee's body becomes like fire, becomes spiritualized. Now then there's this quote here. Maharaj is giving this quote here, but the main point is at the end. A person who gives up all fruitive activities and offers himself entirely unto me, eagerly desiring to render service unto me, achieves liberation from birth and death, and is promoted to the status of sharing my opulences. Yeah. So they become just like Krishna, they become completely spiritual. At this point, they're still in the material world, maybe, but they become completely, well, externally, they're in the material world, but internally, they're actually in the spiritual world. And they share,
Prabhu,
yeah,
they are getting, I think they're nearly getting there, isn't it? So
yeah, they're nearly
still,
getting, yeah, because, yeah, actually what caused, these devotees, Krishna, because of their love, Krishna calls them back. Yeah, or they're feeling so much separation that the material bodies, quote unquote, material, quote unquote, is not enough to withhold the spiritual transformations of ecstasy that is experienced. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's when they leave this world, or they're not in this world anyway. But that's when they there's a word for it, when they actually return and take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. Now there's more here. That's me thinking we might finish this whole chapter in this class, but it's not going to happen. So here, I'll just read some more here. When Krishna abandoned the gopis on the full moon night of the autumn season, after having called them into the heart of the forest, the wives of the gopis became distraught. To mitigate the distress caused by separation from their lover, they first searched everywhere for him. Not finding him, they became overwhelmingly absorbed in him, so much so that they began to think that they were with him. So this is this pastime here. You notice here, this is where the gopis, Krishna's left, and in their ecstasy of separation, they are so intensely thinking about Krishna that they actually become Krishna. You understand? So here's a gopi. This is Kaliya, isn't it? This is Kaliya. You're looking in Trivanna, looking in the mouth here, and different pastimes, they're enacting Krishna's pastimes. So they're so absorbed. Yeah. So this is called Tat Atmakam. So they actually act out these pastimes. This is mentioned in the 10th canto, chapter 30, text 14. So they're so much filled with Krishna's presence that they become Tat Atmakam. Yeah? So Maharaj mentions this is a topmost perfection. So to achieve a oneness with Krishna, it's not the oneness like the Mayavadis, of course. Yeah. It's inconceivable to the Mayavadis. So this is the prerogative Maharaj mentions of Krishna's companions. Yeah. And to be worshipped by the likes of us and even perfected devotees who haven't reached that stage. Yeah. Now, I read this sentence here as well. These sincere Vaishnavas shun the allurement of being recognized as great devotees, for they know well that their coveted goal of love for Krishna is ever distant from the duplicitous heart. Yeah. So they're actually very careful to hide themselves. Yeah. Because they know as soon as you start this year, because there's no duplicity in the heart. That's why it's so abhorrent, I don't know if it's the word, abhorrent, when someone imitates divine ecstasies. Yeah. We can understand that how that really, as soon as someone does that, duplicitous. Yeah. That's why Prabhupada wouldn't, yeah, Prabhupada was quite strongly spoken against these persons. Also, not just Prabhupada, Rupa Goswami, and also, who's it, Rupa Goswami, Vishnu Devotee Thakur, speak very strongly against such persons who actually want to advertise themselves. That means as soon as one tries, that means what they're advertising, it doesn't exist. Yeah, because these great devotees, they actually they keep it like a, yeah, they keep it like a diamond, like a secret. Yeah. Just read this here, then perhaps we'll have to. Thus, by carefully cultivating the holy name and hearing about Krishna, devotees almost irrepressibly greed for service to him, which from thus by carefully cultivating the holy name and hearing about Krishna, the devotees develop a great greed for him, which for many Gaudiya Vaishnavas means service to Srimati Radharani. And that quickly elevates them to the stage of love, prema. Yeah, let me just go through this slide here, because then next week we'll speak about prema. So we've been speaking more or less about bhava now. Next week we'll speak a little bit about hearing at prema. Okay, so what's that like? Wow. Yeah, so Marge mentions that among such devotees, yeah, he mentions here that Srila Prabhupada, sometimes there's controversy, or Marge describes it as a friendly discussion. You may have even discussed it ourselves or with friends. What's Prabhupada's relationship with Krishna? It's like, what is it? What is it? Is it a friend, or is it there as a gopi? Or right, Nitai Master just said he's a gopi. I've not taken it. He's a Priyanama Saka.
Yes.
Which means Chandravali is in the Priyanama Saka group.
Yes.
Nitai said he's a gopi. Priyanama Saka means that he's a gopa
Very close.
who's very close and engaged in and kind of in Radha Krishna's pastimes. Because some of the gopas are not. But anyway, it's all speculation. Anyway, Marge mentions, then he quotes here, this is from Prabhupada's Purple. In all the ancient, we're going to go over a couple of minutes today, I hope that's okay. In all the ancient literatures of devotional service and in more recent songs from Anottam Das Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and other unalloyed Vaishnavas, the spiritual master is always considered either one of the confidential associates of Srimati Radharani or a manifested representation of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. Okay, so that's from Adi Leela. Now, one thing is sure with everyone, Prabhupada did not disclose it to anyone. Yeah, did not disclose his identity to anyone. Even he was asked twice, actually, directly.
But when Srila Prabhupada got down Jaladuta, he wrote a poem, and Krishna Tabe something Bhai. Now Bhai is like a friend.
So Raj Kishore she's on the side that Prabhupada is a gopa. And that's what devotees who say that. Then they quote Prabhupada's bhajans there. Right. So there you go. Everyone has the different opinions. Nitai Mata, he's a gopi. Raj Kishore from that saying he's a gopa. He's a Priyanam. But Prabhupada didn't actually directly. Well, he didn't. Yeah. Which is interesting because Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he did, Kamala Manjari, Bhakti Siddhanta, also Narayan Manjari. Yeah. But Prabhupada wasn't the only Vaishnava the only Acharya who remained silent on this. Not every Acharya revealed their Siddha Deha. So Marge mentions here that whatever devotees say, conversations or speculations or even realizations, because ultimately in the stages of perfection, it will be realized by highly accomplished devotees. But he mentions that as members of ISKCON, we should respect Prabhupada's mood and observe silence in public. Yeah, even if it's revealed, we should, Maharaj mentioned, we should follow Prabhupada's mood. And interestingly, he also quotes Kavi Karnapur. You know, he wrote this book, Sri Gaura Ganadesh Dipika, where he gives all the identities of Lord Chaitanya's associates in their roles. Some are in heaven, some are in Vaikuntha, and some in Goloka. Yeah. Now, about his own spiritual master, he actually writes, this is Kavi Karnapur's own spiritual master. He writes, a disciple should not address his spiritual master by name. For this reason, I have not mentioned the previous name of my spiritual master. Yeah. So you understand? Kavi Karnapur, who gave what revelation he had of this, but he gave all the eternal identities of all the associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But his own spiritual master, which I don't know who that is actually, interesting, he did not mention it. Yeah. So anyway, bit of information there. All right, so we'll stop there. Next week we will finish this chapter. We just have 3 slides here. And that finishes this chapter. Okay. So sorry, we've gone over 5 minutes. I hope that was okay. To go over the time. And thank you everyone for participating today. We have 14 devotees with us. Thank you for joining us. And tomorrow we are on the nectar of instruction. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you everyone. And
Thank you.
thank you again. And
Thank you, Murli.